Eastern military strategy that I get from whatever book you all can have on it. A load of sarcasm and a load of irony also, because it's needed. So where is LaLaLand? LaLaLand is whatever country you want to pick up. It can be here, it can be the next country, it can be any country in the world. In the beginning, I was thinking about doing this only about Portugal, but then I realized that other countries have the same issues that we have in here. Okay, so I brought it a little bit more. So the main thing about cyber warfare, it's warfare in the end. That's it. We call it cyber, it's just a branch about warfare. It's nothing more than, for example, the Navy, the Air Force, or whatever you want to like it. Currently, the strategy in any country that wants to have some world projection of power thinks in the same way. Might be China, might be the US, might be the UK, even here, even in LaLaLand. So this is reversal for any country that wants to stand up and be recognized, or just pushes force into the world and pushes whatever. We'll see. So I'm going to give you a very small historical perspective, because this cyber war thing is not that new. As you can see, it is my belief that the Cold War never warmed up. Cold War existed, it still exists. The tension between countries and the necessities and the projection of power for whatever country you want are still there. And the fact is that we see today that still China and Russia trying to get into US, into Europe, and everything goes along. The only thing is, for the common people, for the markets, Cold War was killed, but it wasn't. For the economy, it's better to have, for the global economy, it's better to have a peace, which is not there. It's just apparent, because otherwise the markets cannot grow. This way, the US and Europe have access to China markets, and the same for China and for Russia. Regarding the war, Dognædis, which is like a 19th century military, said it is, and it's valid to today. War is a mere continuation of politics by other means. That meaning that if you cannot agree with your business partner, and as all of us know in here, well, you go to war. And that's it, period. If there are no way you can get an agreement, or if you just want to impose your vision, you go to war. You see that in business, you see that in countries, you see that about resources, we see that about a lot of things that we're going to see later on. This phrase, it was supposedly said during the meeting between Ho Chi Minh, which was back then the North Vietnamese communist founder, and Mao Zedong, it was China's. This is very important to realize one thing. The vision that Europeans and Westerns in general have about time and long periods is very, very different from the ones from the Far East, or even in the Southeast of Asia. For example, what is the number of years that you consider a long-term project? Anyone?
10 years.
10 years, yeah, precisely. 10, 15, 20 years tops. For these countries, what they consider like the long run is 50 years, even 100 years. Those empires extended for much more time that most of the countries in the world have been recognized as a country. Okay? And this is important also by other stuff. If you remember properly, a couple of like 10, 15 years ago, a lot of change in the world. The Eastern Bloc, led by Russia, fell apart, became capitalist, and China instated the double system. So they are still communists, but they have an open market. Might sound weird to you, but as we can see now, it's not. Today, China is a leading power in terms of almost everything. Military Military speaking, 5 years ago, China was 25 years behind regarding the US capability of militaries. Today, China is only 5 years behind the US in military capability. Not only in manpower, because they exceed and supersede the US in large numbers, but I'm talking about technology. And the weirdest thing is, most of those technologies that went to China, one, companies just started working with China because it was cheaper, okay? Or China get their hands on some information, which is not weird, okay? So we have the Star Wars heritage. As you know, what we know today as the Internet was developed by ARPA and then DARPA, and then evolved what today we know about as the Internet. But other stuff going on at the same time. So the SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, which started with the Ronald Reagan administration, or the Star Wars program, if you want to call it, evolved in a lot of aspects. The Internet, as you know, was developed to become the communication system resilient to nuclear attacks. So you can reroute information for whatever, and you have the Internet as you know it today. The thing is, not only that, but SIGINT and COMINT was evolved at the time also. Anyone recalls, for example, the program called Echelon? Echelon was like high-tech spying capabilities developed by the US during the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, with satellite dishes and spent on communications all over the world. So every fax, conversation, phone call, whatever you want to call it, they could intercept and record it, okay? So basically, intelligence gathering just evolved a little bit. They just use it, and now we have a global network of all information passes through. So you can access those information much easier than putting some echelon system, just wiretap, for example, the submarine cables or whatever cables you want, or every line of transmission that you want. So what we have today is like the Planex program. This is the official designation for the cyber army from the US. You have China's Blue Army, you have the cyber jihad for some people, and you have East versus West versus the fundamentalists, the other fundamentalists versus North versus South versus emerging versus rich, poor, other fundamentalists. So everyone wants the share of money, power, and control. But basically what they want is all of it, or at least the great part of it. So humanity ego trip goes on and on and on, as usual, nothing new, until now. So, but besides the states, we have another players in here. We have activists and jihad or cyber jihad. Several motivations and goals, as we know: environmental, religious, political extremism, government disgruntled, anyone you can think of or can even remember about it. Okay? And then we go to the cyber whatevers. That's what I call it. When we call it cyber weapons, attack tools, whatever. But in this war, it's just the weapons and ammo. Okay? So we have the cyber whatevers that are the trendy stuff today. We have Stuxnet, supposedly by the experts. I'm not. It's the first cyber weapon. Okay? As someone said it here recently. And we have also Flame, which is like just some cyber intelligence tool. Okay? It gathers information, it cracks passwords, and so on and so on and so on. Also, someone in here told a thing about the one-man army, that it's not possible, even some funding of some kind. Just by curiosity, who was here on Friday? Okay? Do you really see Claia's presentation? Claia's presentation? Remember what was it about? So it was a rat, in the same way that Flame is, that gathers information, cracks passwords, that access other systems, and so on and so on and so on. But it had an interesting feature. You know, part of this, just a skeleton, because it's just a small structure of the part of this. All the structure was there. What you really need is the payload to interact with SCADA systems, the SCADA part was there. So for those that believe that to develop a cyber weapon, you need a lot of money, I just give you an 18-old years Sweden guy that have nothing to do with nothing what we talk about. He just did it because he could, he know how to do it, and he developed almost a cyber weapon. In my perspective, it's as simple as this. You don't need to have like $1 billion to develop weapons, okay? You just need one thing, the knowledge. And all of those players that we talked before have that knowledge. They can learn how to program on the internet. Even if you don't know nothing about programming, you can have access to a lot of tools and a lot of knowledge. And even that, most of them went to actually the university and have a degree in Masters of Computers or whatever. But again, you don't need to be like a super geek to develop those kind of stuff. And the problem is, these 18-old men just did it, and he presented it here. As simple as that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the LaLaLand infrastructures. LaLaLand of every country needs a couple of things to run. Anyone can tell me what's the three basic things you need to run a country?
Power, communication.
Power, communication.
Water, gas.
Water. That's the three basics.
Electricity.
Power, when I say power, it's electricity, okay? So that's exactly it. For a cyber warfare system, you use these three targets. Energy, well, it runs everything. You need water because you need to give water to the people, to the cattle, to the agricultural systems. You need the water to cool down stuff. And of course, you need to communicate. So what we wanted to see next is some examples of what can be an attack. In energy, this is the main production. This represents all over the world like 98% of all the energy produced. That's the data from the World Bank. So we have nuclear, hydroelectric, thermoelectric. The rest, like wind and solar, are still, globally speaking, very, very small. It represents around 7% of all the energy produced. Water. Much of the countries use large dams to accumulate water and distribute it. Also, we use part of that water in the system to produce electricity. Also. And we have the communication part. Usually, besides the countries that have like one governmental agency to run the communications, most of them have a lot of players in the market. You have submarine cables, X landlines, and Y satellite connections. Okay? And most of these systems in most of the countries are heavily automated and supposedly heavily secure. So the problem with telecoms, again, it's the number of players. If you have a governmental telecom company, well, that's easy. The government runs it. If something goes wrong, someone is attacking you, people will play it. The problem is when you have a competition and you have not only the governmental one, but the private ones, who's going to put the plug on the system? Okay? Most of the telecom companies in the world are sister companies. But the problem here is they don't talk usually with each other. Okay? I think there are some people in here that work on ISPs in here. Am I right? At least 1, 2, 3? Okay. I recall that a couple of months ago in LaLaLand, there was an issue from an attack. Before the CEOs or whatever see people that should give a response to someone, the problem didn't evolve because the technical people, because they knew each other, spoke with each other and solved the problem, because before there was someone in the top with something to do. Am I right? No one comments on this? Okay, good.
That a comment on another.
Sorry?
I have a comment on another topic of telecoms.
S7 is the evil word that they don't want to hear. I
S7?
never found a telco that accepted a pen test or whatever on SS7. They just
SS7
don't
is-
want to hear.
It's a nice company. I remember a couple of years
No,
ago.
SS7, the protocol.
Oh.
If you play good or evil with SS7, you shut down a country,
Okay.
at least, and other nasty things.
But again, I'm not even getting
one
there. The
thing
problem is that they don't talk with each other in the proper way, with the proper channels at the proper speed. And that can be very, very harmful for a country, whatever country it is, okay? So, possible operations. You have Operation Cyber Chassis. Anyone likes history here? No one? Oh, a couple of them. Nice. So Operation Chassis was during Second World War. The Allies were in big trouble and they needed to stop the powerful German machine. So what they did, a very simple stuff. They needed to stop the production of a very small component, but that was crucial to whatever war machine that you can think of. Planes got it, tanks got it, motorcycles got it. It's a thing called bearings. Very small, with it inside, you know what I mean? Component. Okay. So those factories were located near a river and near a dam in the Ruhr. Ruhr is one of the biggest rivers in Germany. What the Allies did, just bombing the dam. But because there's no simple way to do it, and the Germans were a little bit proactive, and they had torpedo nets on the both sides of the dam, they had to evolve to a new kind of bomb that will roll out like, you know, a small flat stone that you launch on the water, bounces over. So they developed that kind of bomb. So Operation Cyber Chassis will be doing something very similar to that. What you'll do basically is controlling the SCADA systems in large dams. The modus operandi for this operation will be open the gates, the floodgates on the dam, and control also the above and below the dam flood monitors. Okay? It's not as simple it might get, but it's not as difficult as that. We'll see it later. So what you got? Massive floods. If you have dams after dams after dams, for example, in the river, you just open the first two, and the other one just crashes on the pure pressure of the water. That's it. Destruction of water and power infrastructure, because as I said before, most of the dams in the world use that energy accumulated there to produce electrical energy. So, in some cases, scenarios that were studied, we got 60% reduction of water availability, by 30% of power production lost, to a big impact on farming, and some human losses depending on how many people live below the dam, okay? Or along the river, because the floods will be big. Just to add an idea, during Operation Cyber Chassis, besides the factories and the power plants, 35,000 people died, okay? German people died during that operation. Not only German, but also other workers there. Other kind of operation it's possible to do is Operation Tesla. Control and divert very high current systems to melt down the transformers. So the thing is like this. Most of the countries have very small number of these systems. LaLaLand, for example, has around 36 or 38, if I recall properly. But you don't only need to shut down 8 to put the country in the black. Because the rest of the power that is produced is not enough to get power to the rest of the system. So, what you do, since the system of electricity is somewhat automated, you just do a very simple thing that someone that has some knowledge in electronics or power or current or something like that will know. You just overcharge the system. You pick up this one, and you redirect the power to there. The energy is too much, and the transformers will melt down. Usually, depending on the country, the time to replace those kind of transformers can be between 3 weeks to a couple of months. depending on the kind of current that passes, if it's direct current or is AC, for example, okay? Continuous current or AC. So that you can understand that's going to be trouble. Just imagine one country without power for 3 weeks. Getting the picture so far? So, and if you use the proper lines, because most of the countries are not isolated, they buy, they sell energy from other countries to other countries, what can happen is if you pick the right ones, you cut down the power to LaLaLand and from LaLaLand. Even some power that can be produced cannot go for a neighbor, for example, can shut down his neighbor. For example, I don't know if you know, but for example, Mozambique, all the power that is produced in Mozambique, in the Caorabassa Dam, is rerouted through South Africa and then goes back into Mozambique. There is no direct line until now from the dam to Mozambique itself. We shut down South Africa, we shut down Mozambique. Simple.
It's not true.
That's not true?
Caorabassa Dam produces energy in DC because of that, because they have direct lines.
As far as I know, all the energy produced in Caorabassa, this is going to change very soon. Is redirected through South Africa and then comes through South Africa again, because they don't have the transformers there to do this.
The energy was transformed to DC.
Yeah.
There is a huge loss on energy transport, but it's possible. They can bring energy through South Africa because it's cheaper,
Yeah.
but because they can't do a direct line between.
It's cheaper. Okay.
Yeah, because we can discuss.
Yes, okay. We'll discuss later on, but I think it's about some agreements or...
Not only because you've got a huge loss in energy if you transfer the energy
directly
using
through.
a direct,
Because they don't
direct
have
current
proper
instead of.
transformers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's almost the same. So, operational outcome. Well, if you shut down the power grid, or at least damage very, very much, and with the BGP attack, no, you're out. That's it, basically. So this will be the kind of attack that someone is going to scare you with, but you know, at some point we'll see more about it. But without power and water and telecom, basically what we are back in Stone Age. That's it, at least for a couple of months. Just imagine yourselves with no water on the tap, no water for shower. If you want to drink, you need to go and buy, but you cannot buy because you have no money, ATMs are not working, don't have electricity on the ATMs, supermarkets won't work, and so on and so on and so on. So this is a scary movie that a lot of people are selling out there to sell. Basically what they do is selling stuff that we might need or might not need. So, obstacles to these operations to succeed, because like in everything, a military operation needs some degree of success to go on. I'm not a military. I don't know if there is any military personnel or ex-military personnel in the room, but basically this is it. You have to have a degree of certainty of the impact of the operation. The obstacles are somewhat large. There are too many different systems, even inside one country. For example, on telecoms, depends on the operator. Anyone choose their own technology or develop their own technology or buy a different technology. So it's not easy. And another one is the design of the infrastructure by itself, or the sometimes technical, most of the time it's non-technical choices about the using of one system instead of the other. So, for example, one obstacle to this to succeed is the dam floodgates design. Some floodgates, as you see on the left, just can lower until the safe area. Okay? So even if the rain is massive or the flooding is massive, they can always put out some water. These have two risks. One, if it is a really massive flood, it will go over the dam and can even destroy the dam itself. Okay? But in a more common way, unless you have something behind giving you a lot of water. It's the safest mode. Take out the excess of water, and you still have water in the back. So you can still produce power, and you can still have water for consumption, whatever is human or for the agriculture. The one on the right have these two systems. If you see on the right, they have the power plant, but in the left, you have the floodgates, which are at the lowest level of the dam. So you can almost empty the dam until it ends. Okay? So this is the different designs. The ones that have some degree of success will be the one on the right, because you can really flood everything below the dam. Other things is power transmission. When you choose one instead of the other, they have different behaviors, and for that, if you don't mind, Luis, can I ask you for your help on this now?
I can try.
Yeah. So Luis is more technical on this than me, so I ask for his help.
What do you need?
I need to know, for example, DC instead of AC, what's the pros and the cons, for example, on transformer lines?
In Portugal, it's only used AC.
I know.
Yes.
I know that it is.
It's more cheaper to transport
Yeah,
AC.
Sorry?
It's more cheaper to transport AC
AC?
than DC.
Oh, meaning that the losses are lower with AC and DC. But for example, if you want to break or to melt down a transformer, which one will be easier to do?
I think both.
Both?
I think both.
Okay. So, if you want to melt down a transformer, each one of them will be easier. For example, transformers need to cool. If you just attach the sensors that cool the transformers, they melt down by itself. You don't even need, for example, in the summer, with
Yeah,
the normal charge.
most of the transformer are passive. They have inside cooling
Systems.
liquid,
Exactly.
and there is no, normally it's oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is no external system. Transformers
Okay,
works by itself. For instance, for DC there is no transformer.
No, it's direct.
It's an electronic device different, but it's not a
But
transformer.
again, you can melt down.
Yeah,
See if you overcharge
theoretically
them
it's,
from others. No?
yeah.
So, and again, telcos. They have multiple systems in different ISPs. So attacking those systems and shut them down is not as simple as that. So, in my perspective, it's doable with a reasonable amount of success. And this again depends on the country and depending on the infrastructure they are attacking. You will need a lot of intel, and that's why some systems are being breached by some software or malware, if you want to call it. And as a weapon by itself, alone, as someone stated here, and I agree with them, it's not doable. Not by only itself. It can be worked like a cover operation, instead of someone sending some black ops guys just blowing up some bridge or blowing up some dam. You can do this. It's cheaper. You don't need to put anyone in danger. It's anonymous. You can do it and blame it on somebody else if you want. But as a weapon by itself, only its own, I don't think it is viable. And we have the human factor. The problem on all these systems, besides the design, is the awareness and security mindset that does not exist throughout the industry. Okay? When we're talking about SCADA systems, from the designs of the equipment, from the designs of the PLCs, from the designs of the software, even the operating system that they are using is not the best choice in my humble opinion, again. So from design to implementation, what we can do in here is to start to design or ask when we buy some systems, more secure systems. Because the problem with SCADA, it's basically data acquisition and sending some information. If you don't have like a proper firmware on the equipment, only the PLC will send the firmware any kind that wants to start, that can be changed. There are no limits to what the equipment can do unless it was programmed before, right? So far, any questions, any comments? No?
One comment.
Sure.
From what you said in the beginning, that there was a risk of the sole human, single person, doing some kind of attack or some kind of damage, and what you said afterwards, including these types of problems, the conclusion I take is that it's not possible for one person to do a lasting damage or a significant damage or have any significant impact. So this kind of cyber warfare, from what you are saying, what I take is that it can be a complement to standard warfare.
That's it.
So it's not something that we will probably see, from what we know now, has a single point of attack, but has a complement to other kinds of attacks. Or in the case of Stuxnet, or from what we have seen, instead of doing a surgical, physical attack, trying to do something that they thought they could say it wasn't us, we don't know what that is, so they have all the, there is no risk of getting caught.
It's more like Black Ops.
Yeah.
Okay.
But strategic for a single point,
it's more tactical, more
small impact, basically.
Well, you can go to what you said in the beginning. It's like this. Clients developed that system because you want to. Just playing around, the SCADA was just, well, what kind of thing should I put it in? I said, well, SCADA is a big thing now, so design a SCADA and implemented it. And he did, in a couple of weeks. But realize one thing, that's just one small piece of the software. If you put a command and control, if you heard the botnet, and you put the software, and you, again, Intel, a little bit, not that much. If you want a specific target to country, if you know a little bit of about this design, the only piece of information that's crucial there is the payload that you put on the attacking vector, okay? So one single person with a botnet can do some damage, real damage, they can. It's not that easy, it's not that difficult, and we've seen that the use of botnets do whatever you can think of. Now imagine a botnet instead of doing a DDoS, distributing that kind of malware, and automatically defines that, okay, this is a system that I'm in, I'll pick up this payload, and this payload, and I'll drop the bomb. That's it.
I was thinking more, but maybe my ignorance, but most botnets are not connected to these systems, like power grids and stuff like that. They don't reach there. So
supposedly, most of these networks are closed. But as some of us know, there is no real closed network. You always have some grid that goes from the outside to the inside to manage to whatever. You use, for example, pen drive that you use in Stuxnet to infect the system, hard drive, whatever. Okay? So the thing is, there is always a way. Even it's not a botnet, can think about whatever you want to think about it. Mega virus, a mega Trojan with all the payloads inside. It's a little bit more big, but it works in the end. And as soon as, okay, this is a system, this payload, shut down, that payload, shut down. And I'm just talking about your free, simple stuff. I'm not even talking about the industry, okay? Because you can do that, for example, in the industry. If, for example, you have a refinery, and if the refinery is automated, you can impact the production, for example, of fuel, okay? And there aren't that many.
So you are thinking more of cybercrime in a way that a company hires another company to do damage.
Well, I'm thinking about a lot of things, because it can be a company hiring another company to do that.
Like Microsoft hiring somebody to shut down Apple's factories in China or India or something like that.
For example, or can be a state hiring a company to do that on their behalf because they don't have the technology or want to be traceable. Sorry?
What happened with Libya, the DLC system?
In Libya?
To a private company.
So?
It's public.
So the possibilities here are numerous. I'm just talking about countries, okay? Of course, when you are talking about countries, all the rest of the ecosystem is part of it. Even cybercrime, as Paulo stated yesterday, cybercrime is used from a lot of countries to do some kind of damage in other countries or other companies that belong to another country or whatever. Okay. Recall, for example, seeing a report that stated that the attacks in Portugal were perpetrated by Brazilian and Chinese hackers to decrease the price of ADP before the buying. Okay? But in the end, I think it was like a couple of kids in Madeira doing it. But no, Microsoft knows best. So the human factor, again, awareness, security, mindset from design to implementation. Companies that design, actually Siemens just after Stuxnet made some changes on their some lines of PLCs to increase a little bit the security, but the problem is from the top to the end, from the control systems and the operating systems. For example, most of the controlling systems cannot be, OS terms, cannot be updated. You see that a lot. You see that, for example, in ATMs. Never seen a blue screen on an ATM? Yeah. What do you say there? Windows 2000, XP, deprecated, non-patched, and so ever, and so ever, and so ever. Okay? It's common. If you go to the industry, you see the same. See, for example, Windows 98 or Windows 2000 controlling system, and when you see the system, it's not even patched. But everyone puts a pen in there, everyone accesses the internet or whatever, unless it's very, very close system. But again, the technician was supposed, technician couldn't go there, put the pen drive, infect the system, and get out. Okay? So the possibilities are numerous. But again, this goes back to the basics. As most of us know from the beginning, the most simple thing is when you design. The problems are from the design. When you program it, everybody is lazy. And when you can program with the mouse instead with proper programming on the keyboard, some things can happen. When you use a WYSIWYG programming system, it's like doing a web page on, I don't know, choose one, pick one. If you go back and forth, you see some garbage there that sometimes you need to clean and go back when you have errors there, okay? So this is very basic, very simple errors that can be shut down at the source. So, because of that, the company that I'm working now, WeTechU, along with Dognaedis, developed a program. The program is called WeSecure You. This is a training and awareness program that can be found from the top to the bottom in any company, regardless of their working environment, or their target, or their market, or if they are government, or even military. The program begins to get out of the system the basic flaws, and not some basic, in some cases, regarding security in every aspect you can think of. Because today, as I see it, information security is a little bit more like espionage in the 80s and the 90s. You need to protect your assets in some way. If you are developing something, you should protect. If you are giving a service, you should protect them also. So we developed this program in here. And I have a specific